I am going to be showing you guys how to handle vital sign equipment and how to do vital signs. And this is more of a hands-on activity. Your professor will be walking you through this skill. I will just be showing you the basics. So when you come in, you are going to wash your hands or sanitize. You have your stethoscope, and you will, for state testing and any time, because these are community equipment, you want to make sure that you clean out somebody else's earbuds because you do not want to wear them. So open up your alcohol swab and make sure you get in there really good. You want to clear the diaphragm because it's going to be touching the resident, and then you're going to discard of that. So putting on a stethoscope, there is a right and a wrong way. I teach my students the V method, and the V is facing them. So the opening is towards them. So what I do, I make a V with my fingers like so, and it should line up. The earpieces should lay nicely against the fingers, and that is the way that you put in the stethoscope. If you turn it the other way, look at that V, and these are pointing up, and when you put this in, it's not going to sit nicely against your ears, and it's like putting in your earpieces in the wrong ear. So what you want to do when you have your arm, you want to make sure that you deflate all the air. So this arm is already ready, so we're not going to take off this blood pressure cuff, but I'm going to show you how to apply a blood pressure cuff on this arm. So when we deflate our blood pressure cuff, take all the air out. And this is the right arm. So you want to, obviously this person's arm would be attached to them. You want to raise all of their sleeves up and expose their arm. When it should be nice and snug. So this is their right arm. And this has the artery markers. It has for left and right. Some blood pressure cuffs will just have an arrow. So it's really important to pay attention to your blood pressure cuff. And I tell my students to, how you know is, so this is the right arm. So you want to line it up with the right side of the thumb, okay? And so your stethoscope will be 2 inches at the brachial artery, okay? So right there. And then when you remove it, actually the dial, we're gonna unclip it, or there's a little clip, push down, and then it goes in this space right here so that you don't have to hold it while you're doing their blood pressure. So let's remove this one. So for our arm, when you are listening, you want to, this is the gauge, okay? You're going to put your stethoscope in, and there is a right and a wrong way. And how you know that it's incorrect, do you hear that? The air is leaking. The blood pressure cuff is not broken, but the air is leaking. So you have to turn the dial all the way. And then when you start pumping it, it will start inflating properly. So let's open this up. You're going to put your stethoscope in. You're going to take your diaphragm, put it on the AC. So this can either be held or attached to your blood pressure cuff. And you want to inflate it between 160 to 180 milligrams of mercury. And then you want to slowly release it, and you are listening for the first lub dub, and you're going to listen all the way through, and then the last time that you hear it. The top number is called the systolic. The bottom number is called the diastolic. The top number is typically a lot higher than the lower number. And these numbers on this gauge, you're always going to get an even number. You will never get an odd number. So they go by 2. And I highly recommend getting familiar with this gauge. And if you are not very familiar with it, talk to your professor. They can walk you through even more. So then when you're done with the blood pressure, you are going to do pulse. And in order to do pulse, you have to know how to read an old school clock. This is why we tell you to get a watch with the second hand. I always tell my students the easiest would be from 12 to 6, or from 6 to 12, 9 to 3, 3 to 9. So what you're gonna do, you are going to take 2 fingers. So it's typically your middle finger and your ring finger. You don't want to use your pointer finger because there's a pulse in it, and you can pick up your own pulse while you're trying to do your friend's pulse. So how do you know where the pulse is on the inside of your arm, and it is on the thumb side. So when you go to the doctor, you always want them to give you a thumbs up. A lot of times I see students, they're trying to place their fingers in on the middle or towards the pinky side. So to the thumb side, and you want to feel around that bony area there, and you should just feel a pulsation against your finger, and you want to count that for 30 seconds. So if you start at 12, you're going to stop at 6. If you start at 6, you're going to stop at 12, and you want to count every single pulsation. And then when you're done, you will take that number, whatever that may be. So if you got 30, you're going to take that, multiply that by 2, and that will give you 60. When you're done with that, you are still going to pretend like you're holding pulse or counting pulse for your neighbor, but you're going to be counting their respirations. You don't want to tell them that you're counting their respirations because they can adjust it. They can hold their breath. They can breathe really fast, which is hyperventilation, or they can do hypoventilation. So you just want to watch their chest. Inhale, exhale counts as 1. So watching their chest for 30 seconds. So that's 1. Notice some people might say, oh, that's 2 because my chest went up and then down and counted as 2. So typically respirations for a normal healthy adult are anywhere between 12 to 20. Sometimes students get really nervous, especially during testing, and they may have higher respirations, same thing with pulse. So it's really important that you take advantage and practice on doing pulse, blood pressure, and respirations on your friends and family. I would not recommend doing them on small kids because they do tend to run a little bit higher. If you have questions, always reach out to your instructor.